Hi everyone and welcome to the weekly GVO Tech Talks. Today's topic is going to be Swagger. Essentially, it's a API tooling framework. So, just to give you a background on how I came across Swagger. So, a couple of sprints back when I was working in the .point project, we came across a requirement where we had to communicate our backend API with one of .point's other customers API. So there, when we were like trying to find some documentation that they had, we found out that they had implemented Swagger in their solution, and it was really nice looking, and it was very easy to understand, and for us as developers and also for the QA people also, it was really easy to use the API because of Swagger. And then later on, we came across another third party where we had to develop a new solution, a new API. So there we tried out Swagger in that, and it turned out to be pretty good and useful. So that's how I looked it up, and then I later on found out that Swagger is not just a documentation tool, but it has a set of other tools as well, which help to design and build APIs. And also, I know that the IPG team has implemented Swagger in their solution, and recently I got to know that EGR Hub and Red Engine also have done it. So, a lot of people here must be knowing Swagger. So, if you feel that there's something to add to what I say, or if I made a mistake, so please feel free to comment. So, I'll just go straight into it, the overview. So, first, what is Swagger? And then a bit of history about it. Then on to the different tools that it has. And since Swagger UI is the most commonly used tool among people, so why it's better? And then a short demo. And then along with the demo, I'll be also talking about Swagger in the context of ASP.NET Core. And finally, some users who have used Swagger. So, what is Swagger? As I mentioned before, it's an API tooling framework. It has lots of different tools. Primarily, it's used to design, build, and provide documentation for the different APIs. Another thing is it's supported across many platforms. You can use any backend technology, any programming language. You just have to integrate Swagger into it. And of course, it's completely open source. So, bit of history. It was created in 2011 by a developer called Tony Tam. He was also the co-founder of the popular dictionary website WordMe. Probably some of you must have heard of it. So, what he wanted was, in WordMe, he wanted to have some sort of an automation for the API's documentation. So, that's what initially he wanted, and that's why he created Swagger. But later on, the different tools began to get added to it, and code generating tool and designing editor and a nice user interface and all that. And it was maintained by SmartBear Software, but later in 2016, so SmartBear Software started a new company called the Open API Initiative. It was under the Linux Foundation, and there were Google, IBM, and Microsoft. Those were all founding members. And Swagger specification was renamed to the Open API specification, and they kind of changed their GitHub repositories and all that. And currently, as of 2017, Swagger and Swagger related tools are being downloaded over 100,000 times per day, so you can get an idea of how popular it is. So the Swagger tools, so these are the main tools that you can find in the framework. First, we have the Swagger editor. So there you can basically, it's an editor where you can write your own API definition. So there you have to use the Open API specification, which is kind of like the Swagger standard. It's a sort of a language of sorts. So that's what you use to design your APIs. And then there's the Swagger Codegen tool. There you can sort of like you can see whether the API that you have designed is properly built and all that. And the third tool is what most people use. It's actually the automated documentation, Swagger UI. So they are basically, it just provides a separate page which contains a nice looking documentation of the methods that you have implemented in the API. And the last tool was implemented quite recently, Swagger Inspector. I'll come to all these later. So it's basically a tool where you use it to test and generate test cases for API testing and all that. It's really similar to a Postman, so most of you know about that. Then Swagger UI. So normally when you create an API and you document it, probably in the early days you would use Word documents and Excel and all that. But the thing is that is, the first point is without like a definite template, those kind of documentations can be inconsistent. You can't really change much. And also, Swagger UI is easier to maintain because it's basically, it has a template, and what you do is you basically follow that template. So if you want to make a change, you can just change the template and it will reflect to all the other reference spaces. And obviously easier versioning. So versioning is maintained within Swagger UI, and it's much more easier than if you had done it manually. And the other thing is it's more human and machine readable. So here, if you're a developer, so then you can have a look at the Swagger UI and decide whether your API is properly constructed. Of course, you can check the code as well, but this is much more readable. And not only developers, so say the product owners can also get an understanding of what the API does, and QAs can, when they are testing, they can get a better understanding. And also, it's in basically it's in JSON format, so obviously it's machine readable, so that's also a good thing. And the other last point is documentation is written during the development. So basically, you don't write the documentation separately. You just when you are constructing the API, when you are writing the controller methods and all that, that's what is ultimately going to be used for the documentation. So then I'll go to the demo. So this is the Swagger main website. So you can see there's these tools under this here. So first, the Swagger editor. So here we can either download it and use it, or we can just use the online editor. So this is just the example that they have given, a pet store application. So here this is the Swagger or the Open API specification. So there they have followed a certain standard where you can see different tags and values here. So according to this specification, this documentation is being built. So you can add paths and different methods to this side and to update. So the Swagger editor is basically where you can design your API, and in the end you can simply save as a JSON or YAML. YAML is a human readable language. It's kind of a little different from this. So if you save it as a JSON, then it will output the JSON file. And then what you would do is, if someone wants to consume your API, you would provide a link for the file itself, this JSON file. And what they would do is, they can be using any platform, any programming language, any IDE. So they would use this JSON file to create a sort of link between their application and the client, which is our API. So for the demo, I'm going to, since most of us are using the .NET framework, so the set of tools that most people use to integrate Swagger with .NET is called NSwag. They have a desktop application called NSwag Studio. So that's what most people use to generate the .NET clients for Swagger file. So I have it installed here. So this is the NSWAG Studio. So here what you can basically do is either you can provide a URL for the specific the specification that you want, or you can just give the JSON. So this is the file I downloaded. So you can see this is in completely JSON format. It contains all the details of the API. So you can just copy this over to NSWAG Studio. And here you can, so because this is .NET related, it has TypeScript, C#, the C# client, and also you can generate a controller, Web API controller. So just go through. And again, in each of these, you can, there are different settings pertaining to each one that you can change. So now I'll just go with the defaults. So generate the output, and here it will show the input specification, and here it will show the TypeScript client. These are TypeScript classes and the construct and all that, and the same is C#. So this is the C# client. So this can basically be used by a third-party consumer. So this class will act as a link between their application and ours. So here he can just call the methods in our APIs using this client. And the same thing with the control as well. So this will implement API controller. So that's the API controller class is what Swagger mainly uses when it implements itself. So like in this way, someone can use this Swagger JSON file to generate .NET clients. And that's how the Swagger editor is mainly used. And then the code generator tool is also used for like building the API. They are also you can download, but they also have a online generator. So here this is also pretty similar. It's sort of like a reverse engineering process for the editor. So again, you can just provide a link to the your whatever the JSON file you have, and it will just provide a set of methods that it uses, and also at the end different models of code segments that you can use inline. And yeah, so I'll just quickly go to the Swagger UI part, because obviously that's what most people use. So here I have created a Web API project. This is not ASP.NET Core. This is the old ASP.NET Web API. So here it's just the base template. So there are two controllers, home and values. So one thing you can notice is the home controller is actually returning a view. So this actually inherits controller class, which is an MVC class. But the values controller actually returns data. So it implements API controller, which is derived from the HTTP class namespace. So this is the one which Swagger will integrate, because it will always look for this API controller class. So for C# and .NET in Visual Studio, what they have given as the implementation of Swagger is called Swashbuckle. It's a NuGet package which you can easily download. So I'll just go ahead and install that. So basically, when you install Swashbuckle into the your solution, it will create a Swagger client in the app start folder. So still not. Yeah. So now you can see in the app start folder you have this Swagger config file. here it's a class where you can, so in this class is where you would provide all the configuration and the settings for your Swagger implementation. It uses this the global configuration class in the HTTP namespace, and they are basically, it's just two methods that are used: enable Swagger and enable Swagger UI. So for now, this is the default is that nothing special is implemented. It's just here you can see the single API version command, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing else implemented here. So, but still you can run this and see. So this is your apps home folder. Now what you can do is so now you can go to /Swagger. So this will take you to the implemented Swagger documentation for your controller. So here you will get a list of all the controllers that you have. This is the name that we have provided in this one here. So you can provide a version and a name, and if you expand this, you will get a list of all the methods inside the controller. So as you can see, color coded according to type of request, and inside again you can get an understanding about what's going on, and you can actually try it out and see whether it works and all that. So it shows all the parameters and the types and content type and all that. So this is actually the basic implementation of Swagger in a web API project. So then, one thing that you can do here is you can add comments to the Swagger documentation using XML. So for that, you need to, there's a command here called include XML comments, and you basically have to input the XML comment paths there. And before that, you have to enable that again in your properties. Under build, you get this output XML documentation file. So this is the file that's going to be output, and you have to provide that path to the Swagger config. So I'll just copy this. So then, obviously you have to provide XML before you can see it. So for example, let's say in the values controller, okay, actually I have another project which I can show you. It's easier than this because this has just one control. So the API, so this is one of the sample projects that I got from the Microsoft website. So reason I selected this was it has a couple of controllers which we can see, and I've already implemented the Swagger library here, and I'll just do the same thing for here. And here, so let's, okay, so here you have three public methods, get category and get categories. So here we can basically provide some XML comments. So we can just give a summary. And there's another one called remarks. So and things like that. And also you can yeah, for now let's just run this and see. Yeah, so you can see that a short summary has been added to the controller, the method, and also there are some implementation notes which are essentially the remarks that we added, and also so you can see now in this one here because since your controller returns yeah, so in these three methods, the return type for this third method has a model inside, the category model, but these two are action results. So as a result, you will see a model in the response class for this method, but not for the other methods. But this is something that you can actually manually input. So you can should be correct. I think it should be correct. So then what you essentially just tell it is the return type of the method is the category class, so just use that. Yeah, so here it will show a model of that class. So it essentially just goes into the code and checks the class object and returns all the values and shows it in the UI. So it's pretty nice looking and it's easy to understand for people who are not that technical like product owners. So they can just get an idea using that. And so okay, next, like I said before in the presentation, I also implemented this for the ASP.NET Core. So for ASP.NET Core, it uses the kind of different library, swashbuckle.asp.NET Core. It's a little different than the original one because I think most of you know that in ASP.NET Core you no longer have the concept of API controllers. Everything is inherited from controller. So here, swashbuckle.asp.NET Core actually makes use of that and it detects just the controller method without looking for the API controller class. It's a more streamlined architecture, but the thing is it needs some additional configuration. So again, I'll stop this and I also have an ASP.NET Core solution. Again, this is a base template. I'm just showing you how to integrate Swagger into this. So here, probably most of you know that the startup class in ASP.NET Core is a little different, and the program class. So here it has two methods: configure services and configure. As the comments say, it's used to add services to the container and configure the pipeline. So basically, when you want to add Swagger to an ASP.NET Core project, you have to add it to the pipeline as well as add that service to the container. So there is a code segment here. So for the configure class, you have to add the useSwagger method. You have to implement the useSwagger method and also useSwagger UI. So in this method, this is where you will configure your endpoints. So if if you are using versioning or something like that, you can version your endpoints by adding multiple endpoints with different paths here and give them different names. And in the configure method, configure services method also, you have to add the Swagger service, Swagger Gen implementation. So here again, it will act as a Swagger doc object, and it needs this info class which you can use from the Swagger library. So basically, you have to add these before you actually run it in an ASP.NET Core application. The UI is a little different, not much different. So here the header is a little different, and not much. So here you can select what version of the documentation that you want to view. Yeah. And next, again, XML comments here is a little different also, because as you can see, there is no Swagger config class to use in the .NET Core project. So everything you have to configure and Swagger, you have to put inside either the configure or the configure services methods. So next, there's some extra configuring that you can do if you want. You can just add a title description and terms of service, license object, and things like that to your documentation. And also, yeah, so this is how you would implement the XML comments. So it has to go inside this use Swagger UI method when you are using .NET Core. I'm not sure it's something is wrong there. I'm not sure what's and the other thing is, even though this is the default look and feel that you have, you can easily edit the styling and the behavior of the Swagger implementation. You can use static files by using this app.use static files. You have to use it in here. So using this command, you can actually create CSS classes and all that stuff, and basically create your own theme for the documentation as well, according to your website theme. And so I'll just, yeah, I have another solution. So this is also an ASP.NET Core application, and it has a couple of extra controllers. So one thing is, if you want to do versioning in your application, so you can do that. So you just have to add the multiple Swagger docs to the service, and you have to define separate endpoints. So here I've just given the same endpoint, but essentially what you would want to do is when you are going to a newer version of the API, you would have to retain the Swagger JSON for the older documentation and provide it inside the path like this. So then you can just basically switch between the different versions. Using this drop down, you can use. So it's really easy to use in that way. And versioning, you don't have to keep multiple documents and different files and all that. You can just easily do it inside the code itself. So yeah, that's about it for the. Sorry? You don't have to the version. No, you don't have to give the version, but I can demonstrate it. You can give different things like you can provide something like a sample request, so it will put it inside a code block and show in the implementation, or you can give different response codes and it will divide the sections by that. So things like that you can define in Excel. But the versioning, anyway, you have to provide separate endpoints to separate files, because the whole documentation is stored inside the JSON file. So ultimately, if you want to store different versions, you have to have different Swagger files. Yeah, so here here we give the version number, right? So this number should be identical to this one and what we provide here. So it basically searches in the URL whether that version is existing. Yeah. Okay. So you have to give that JSON file as the endpoint to that version, the V3 version. So here this is here it's the same file I've given, but ideally you have to you have to have a separate file for each version, and you use that as the endpoint. I think pretty much it for the demo. And the last thing before I finish, I want to show is different users who use Swagger. So I think most of you know these two websites, the MovieDB and Zomato. So first, go to Zomato. So Zomato, for those of you who don't know, it's a restaurant review and feedback website, something like that. So if you go to the developers site in Zomato, so this is their developer site. So here, if you go to the API and under the documentation, so you can see that they have implemented Swagger for their API. So it's really easy to understand by an external user and any developer who wants to work with them. So this is one use of Swagger, and also the MovieDB. Its implementation is a little bit different. It has like a different theme than the default Swagger interface. So here it provides list of all the methods that you can implement on their API. Yeah, so these are some users who actually use Swagger in their websites. And that's it for the presentation as references. So if any of you want to know more information, the Swagger's main website, and there are some GitHub repositories for Swagger and the OpenAPI and Crossbutter. And there are also a lot of tutorials for different platforms that want to adopt to Swagger, and this one is actually what I referred to for ASP.NET Swagger implementation. And that's it. Thank you for listening.